Most of the time, the truth is not hiding, as we are. This is You're Probably Right, a podcast about relationships, responsibility, and the stories we tell ourselves when reality gets uncomfortable. I'm Michael Charles Murray. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, how you doing? This is MCM, aka Michael Charles Murray, and I have a nice, I'm going to call it a series, but the question is, I don't know how much stick-to-itiveness I have. I haven't recorded the first episode. You're listening to it. This is episode 373. I'm going to be answering 10 questions. I'm not going to give them to you all right now, but these are highly regarded, highly touted, frequently asked questions of men by women. These are men who are heterosexual. These are women who are heterosexual. Remember, every episode that I do is from a Christian perspective, but because I'm not presenting scriptures, sometimes I leave things out that scriptures obviously say. Remember, I'm just a guy with a podcast. So I'm not going through the ins and outs because it isn't a Christian podcast. It is just a podcast by a Bible-believing Christian. And unfortunately, sometimes there are blind spots in some of the stuff I'm saying. And honestly, to be honest with you, things would just cut to the chase a lot quicker than I do. As you can see, a lot of the episodes are from 35 minutes to sometimes an hour and a half, couple or 2 and 3 hours. So, anyhow, getting to the task at hand, we are going to be answering the question. No, I'm going to be answering the question. So I did the research as far as what those questions are, but the answers here are coming directly from me. Now, this is coming from someone who is experienced and someone who's had a life, who has kids, who's been married, and a whole bunch of other things, and has kept the job for the same job for the past 20 years, and had another job that was probably another 9 years, and other things in life. So you're listening to someone who has lived a life. So you're just not listening to some rookie. Anyhow, not that a rookie wouldn't have anything good to say, but you're getting years of experience here. Okay, so the first question is, does he actually want a relationship with me, or is he just keeping things casual? And I'm not going to be doing any guy code. So for any guy listening, the jig is up, as they say. I'm just going to tell you like it is, as far as I know it. I am reading from a script, and it is a script that I prepared. So these are my words. Again, these episodes are for entertainment purposes only, just in case. All right, here we go. So, here's the working thesis, as one would say. A woman can't tell that a man wants a real relationship from one impressive date, one serious conversation, one period of sexual restraint, or one promise about the future. She has to look at whether his words match his behaviors over time, whether he's honest and available, whether he's closing other romantic options, whether he's opening his real life to her, and whether the relationship is making practical progress. Indecision can be honest when he's open about it and actively working towards an answer. Ambiguity, that keeps giving him the benefits of the relationship without requiring a decision, is already an answer. Her responsibility is to keep talking, protect her emotional and sexual boundaries, look at several kinds of evidence together, and stop offering more while continually receiving less. All right? Sounds good? Okay, here we go. We got all kinds of noises going on in the background, so I apologize. I'm hoping that this microphone will muffle some of the noise. People are living lives around here, so it is what it is. You got to work around it, all right? All right. Listen, a Again, here's the question. Does he actually want a relationship with me, or is he just keeping things casual? Now, as I said, guys, some of this might help you too, because funny enough, the world has become a androgynous place where we're having some of the same problems. Back in the day, we had men problems and we had women problems. And now it seems like all we have are problems. But some things might change here and there. You got to use your own wisdom to figure out what applies and what doesn't, okay? Here we go. So, listen, this was the most common question in the research behind this episode. And my answer is, see, I'm being straight up, right? I'm not holding anything back. If you cut out in 5 minutes, what you do, and hopefully you learn something. If you don't and you hang on, cool. All right. So this is good for a commute to work. This is good for a commute home. This is a good episode for you to be cutting some grass or taking a bath, splish splash, washing the dishes, cooking food, whatever it is, okay? Or even sitting with your girl group and mulling it over. All right. I'm cool and I'm open. Okay, here we go. So as I said, this question, does he actually want a relationship with me, or is he just keeping things casual, was the most common question in the research behind this episode. And my answer is, you have to look for congruence. I just mean, does what he says match what he does? Is he making room for you? Not a woman. Is he making room for you? Is he closing other options? Is this relationship actually moving anywhere? Where people get caught, I would say, is one impressive thing happens and they stop looking at everything else. He spent a lot of money on a date, so he must be serious. He calls every day, so he must be serious. He waited for sex and it was good, so he must be serious. He introduced you to a friend or two, or started talking about children, so you're thinking he must see a future with you. Any of those things can matter, right? None of them provides his intention by itself. Seriousness shows up as a pattern, and recognizing that pattern is your responsibility. Now, I'm not saying you have to treat him like a defendant while acting like you're a lawyer trying to win a case. Nobody wants the Spanish Inquisition every time they go for coffee. I certainly wouldn't be showing up every time. But you need to know, you need enough conversation, observation, and time to know whether the man in front of you is moving in the same direction his words are pointing. Guys can play the long game. Look at how honest he is, how available he is with his time, how openly he talks about his past, how he describes his former partners, whether he's still talking to other women, what he does with his spare time, and how he talks about the future. When he talks about the future, does he ever speak about you as somebody who could realistically fit in? I'm not saying he should be proposing on the third date. I'm saying that as the relationship develops, right, your presence should start affecting some of the decisions he makes. The conversation about intentions should start early. You shouldn't sit in ambiguity for months, hoping time will eventually translate a man's silence for you. Ask what he's looking for. Is it companionship, sex, exclusivity, marriage? a long-term partnership, a brother and sisterhood? Or does he honestly not know yet? What does commitment mean to him? Is he seeing other people? And does he plan to keep doing that while he's getting to know you? And is that acceptable? You need that conversation, but understand the conversation itself isn't proof. People know what other people want to hear these days. And I'm telling you, through AI and through podcasts like this, you will be listening to the same podcast that somebody else will be listening to and come away with the same information. And they might be even smarter and come away with more. You might miss 5 things. He might catch all 10 and add some to it. Trust me, the world is that diabolical now. A man who mainly wants access to you can learn the right sentences. He can say, yes, we're exclusive. I've never felt this way before. I think you could be the one, while quietly keeping another woman available in case things don't work out with you. So listen to the answer and then watch what follows. Has he actually closed other options, or has he merely moved them in the background? Is he willing to tell other people that he's pursuing a serious relationship with you, Susie? Is he still active on dating sites? It matters. Does he have ongoing conversations that remain romantic, suggestive, secretive, or emotionally intimate? Is he ending other forms of coupling, or is he just hedging his bets? You see, there's a difference between somebody who was actively dating before meeting you and somebody who keeps a private waiting room full of alternatives after claiming that you're exclusive. If he was dating, there's going to be a recent history of conversations, obviously. That alone doesn't prove he's dishonest, though. What matters is whether the direction changed after the two of you became serious. In other words, if you said you're serious now and it's October 14th, and then he still has conversations on October 20th, might be a problem, right? If you've been speaking for a month and the other romantic conversation stopped a month ago, right? That's information. If he keeps telling you that other women mean nothing while making sure none of them ever completely leaves, we're just friends. That is also information. Don't ignore it. Don't be fooled by the price of a date. That's right. A man spending $200 or $300 on dinner doesn't prove that he can't be dating several women. You don't necessarily know his finances, his debt, his access to money. As a matter of fact, who pays on the other dates? Could be that good. Or how much he is willing to spend in order to maintain several options. Money can be meaningful, but money isn't automatically a commitment. Just because you ordered the biggest thing on the menu doesn't mean it's like, oh, well, he has accepted me because he allowed me to buy the steak and bring a steak home for my kids. Now, when I talk about the phone, the phone, I'm not trying to turn the relationship into surveillance, because the phone is evidence, but it shouldn't become your entire relationship. The phone matters nowadays more than it ever did before, because people carry so much of their life inside of it. Conversations, photographs, videos, calendars, banking, social media, dating apps, private arrangements. It's all there. So yes, the way he handles his phone can tell you a lot if you pay attention. Check it out. Does he become secretive when it lights up? And listen to me, I'm telling you this as if you're my daughter, and I do have a daughter. So I'm telling you this information as if you're my daughter. I'm not, as I said, there's no guy code here. I'm giving it to you straight as if you're my younger brother or my younger sister or you were my kid, all right? Or my cousin or my best friend. And I think that's what, honestly, people need to know about this podcast. I'm not just saying stuff. If I was just saying stuff, I think it'd probably be a lot more popular, to tell you the truth. Anyway, there we go. Does he become secretive when it lights up? Or do they? Does he always place it face down? Does he leave the room for certain calls? Now, of course, if he leaves the room for certain calls and it's because you're loud and you want to be nosy and you want to chime in while he's talking, then I kind of get it. But if you stay quiet and you know to stay quiet and yet he leaves the room every time or for certain calls, then yeah, I'm not going to say a red flag, but yeah. Does every call from you have to be returned? In other words, you call, the phone rings out or goes to the machine, and then magically he calls you back in 1.5 minutes when he's quiet somewhere. Even when his life and employment would reasonably allow him to answer sometimes, does he have a second phone that he never properly explained? Is he comfortable enough with that truth, with the truth that when a legitimate concern appears, he's willing to provide a reasonable reassurance? Check it out. In some circumstances, right, even a phone call can help you work out whether his story makes sense. I'm still not telling you to demand every password on the first date. Privacy and secrecy aren't the same thing. As trust develops, reasonable privacy should feel safer, and the unnecessary secrecy should start disappearing. Use common sense, though, please. A surgeon can't answer in the middle of an operation, and a teacher can't stop teaching every time the phone rings. A construction worker may not hear the ring over a drill, nor does he want to cut his fingers off if he's working at a sawmill. He may be in a meeting, driving a car. He might be up on a power line, caring for children, or handling something private that has nothing to do with another woman. But if every call has to happen on his schedule, you can never reach him unexpectedly. There are unexplained periods when he disappears. And every reasonable question makes him angry. That's right, he gets angry. Stop treating those incidents as unrelated. That's a pattern. You shouldn't have to become a private investigator to maintain a relationship. That's another thing. If the only way you can feel secure is by searching constantly, either he has created an environment that can't be trusted, or your own fear has reached a level that makes a healthy relationship impossible. Either way, something has to be addressed. Next, does he bring you into the life he actually has? Now, this is a touchy one for most guys. Check it out. A man who is seriously considering you will usually start bringing you into his actual world. I mean, the life he really has. Not the life you imagine, not the Disney world that he wants. Sorry, hold on. Just gotta move something here. Okay, check it out. Let me go back. A man who seriously considers you will usually start bringing you into the life he actually has, the world he actually has, the real life, not the life you imagine a successful man is supposed to have. Some men don't have a large group of friends. Nowadays, a lot of men don't. A lot of men work, come home, handle their responsibilities, spend time offline, work on hobbies. If he has kids, maybe he has to do stuff for the kids, and keep a very small circle. Don't assume that a man is hiding you simply because he can't introduce you to his 10 best friends he doesn't have. His parents may have passed away. His siblings may live somewhere else. His work relationships may never leave the workplace. He may be private, socially cautious, or somebody who has learned not to bring every new date around people who will later ask, whatever happened to that beautiful girl that you had around us the other day? So be reasonable about the life he actually has, then ask whether he's making room for you inside it. If he worships, is he willing to bring you where he worships? If he has children, when the timing is responsible, is he moving towards letting you meet them? If he has friends, siblings, colleagues, church brethren, club members, or teammates, does he eventually allow you to see how he relates to them in front of you? If his workplace holds a staff gathering, where partners are welcome, does the possibility of bringing you even enter his mind? You know, Christmas parties and such, getaways, retreats. Remember that movie, was it The Wrong Missy? Anyhow, does he let you see where he lives? Now, again, don't confuse embarrassment with deception. A man who is starting over, and you know what I wanted to say with friends, he might have had a friend group, and that friend group might be shared with an ex. So understand, if she kept the house, kept one of the cars, and kept all of the friends. Right. Okay. I move on. Let me move on. A man who is starting over may not have the beautiful home you imagine. Just because he carries himself well and he's clean cut and shaven, it doesn't mean his house is the same. He may be ashamed of the apartment, the neighborhood, the furniture, or the fact that he's rebuilding. That's different from a man who won't let you know where he lives because another woman lives there. The question isn't whether his life already looks impressive. Don't be fooled by bells and whistles and dollars. The question is whether he is gradually letting you see the truth about him. And when he says he's working out, if he says that he just painted the front room, if he says he just got a new chair, and you're around, chances are he's doing those things with you in mind. A lot of guys won't say that is a hint. So if you call him one day or you're texting him, you say, what are you doing? And he says, I just threw out a couch, or I just got a new couch off Kijiji or off of Facebook Marketplace, or I just painted the kitchen, or I just mopped the floor, and he hasn't, like, you don't know. But the point is, a lot of the things that he will tell you, he'll be telling you something without telling you something sometimes. Guys have shame. And I'm going to get to how that shame works in a second about respect. Hang on. Does he make you part of his weekend plans? Now, there's a lot of guys who don't have weekend plans. A lot of guys, for the weekend, the plan is not to do anything because he's been working like a dog all week. But if he is a person that does make plans regularly and that's how you met him, right? Does he make you a part of those weekend plans? Does he want you cheering on the side while he plays his volleyball, pickleball game or something? Or does he want to keep that world separate? And for how long? Does he consider you before filling every available hour? Does he plan dates in advance? And then again, this is he a person who plans dates? Because he could be a fly by the seat of your pants, very up and random kind of a person. Maybe that's what you like about him. So don't be surprised and don't be upset if he doesn't plan dates. If you've known and met him not planning things and saying, today I'm gonna ride the train back and forth from stop 1 to stop 20, back and forth, because that's how you met him and that's what he does. No plans, right? If he's a jet setter, if he's the kind of person who takes a backpack with 4 pairs of underwear and no clothes, and he flies across the world like that and says he'll get clothes when he gets there, then that's who you met. That's the kind of guy he is. So you have to keep that into consideration as well. Does he invite you into quiet time? Not only entertainment time. Does he make legitimate adjustments that show he's considering you specifically, you, your temperaments, your behaviors, your style, your likes, your loves? Not merely the idea of having some random woman available. If he knows you don't eat meat and you're coming over this weekend and he has his whole fridge chock full of meat items and nothing for you to eat, it says something, right? Respect is a part of his private evaluation. Yeah, you're wondering if you are right for him and he's right for you. Listen to this. Check it out. Here's the part that can get missed while you're studying him. Listen, he's evaluating you too. This isn't an interview where he's the only applicant. You're both trying to work out whether the other person, belongs in your life as well. His income, his appearance, his education, his social status doesn't make him more important than you are. And your beauty, the attention you get from men, your education, or your personality doesn't make you more important than him. You may perform different functions in the relationship, but you're equal in value. Whatever he expects from you, he should be willing to offer in the appropriate for himself. One of the main things a lot of men are quietly looking at is respect. Does she have my back? That's what most guys want to know. Now, obviously, most guys are not expecting you to pop off the heels, roll up your sleeves, and throw fists. But are you the kind of girl who gets him in trouble? Big guy is kicking your seat at the movie theater, and your guy's not that big. Are you going to start a fight and get him pounded out? He wants to know that, trust me. And although you might be good enough that he'll take that pounding, pause, whatever, but you know what I mean? He wants to know, right? And it's always information. Trust me, it's always information. Even if he doesn't, it's okay. It's information, trust me. Does she have my back? And is she going to get my back kicked in? Is she honest with me? Does she consider me when she makes decisions? Can she disagree without trying to humiliate me? When we have a private problem, does she turn it into a public scene? A lot of men are more alert to being disrespected than they are interested in someone or with someone who shows big displays of respect. Like, your friends are over. He's like, here, would you like this, honey? Let me get you a plate. Let me do this. Let me do that for you. And everybody's looking at her, oh, wow, she's a keeper, blah, blah, blah. Most guys, although we do like that, most guys aren't only looking at that. And you may not automatically know what makes a particular man feel respected. People come from different homes. They learn different ways of dealing with each other. You can talk about that. Trust me, you gotta talk about that. Deliberately humiliating him is something else. If you curse him out on the sidewalk because you think he looked at another woman, expose private information to win an argument, call him names in front of his children, or embarrass him in front of his friends, a man with self-respect may reconsider the relationship at all. Now, that doesn't mean he gets to call everything every disagreement disrespect. You still have the ability to tell him he's wrong, or if you disagree. But the two of you can't use conflict as an excuse to tear each other down, especially in front of people. Mutual respect requires him to offer the same protection to you. And do you understand? It is protection. You must be able to question him, confront a contradiction, challenge dishonesty, and express a legitimate concern without being labeled disloyal, disrespectful, merely because the truth is uncomfortable. He can't demand that you close other romantic options while he keeps his own options open and warm. He can't demand fidelity while excusing his own behavior. Inspect your phone while treating his like a classified government document. Been there before. Or ask for emotional safety while saving your disclosure or your disclosures to use against you later. Had that before too. Whatever standard he asks you to meet has to apply to him too. If he wants honesty, he has to practice it. If he wants exclusivity, he has to become exclusive. If he wants grace concerning his past, he has to be capable of showing grace concerning yours, especially if you're honest. I've had people who have lied, said such and such, and then forgot their lie and then told me something different later. And then when I called them on it, they got angry and didn't want to talk to me. I've been in relationships where the person would have a phone and my phone was always open, never had a passcode. And if I ever had a passcode, it was for like a couple weeks and then I didn't feel comfortable or I didn't feel like pressing something or punching something or putting it in my retina. So I just left it open. My phone has been open for most of the time. The only time I've ever been worried is at work. If other people are going to grab my phone, and I always think, man, maybe I should have a passcode in here. But honestly, I've always had that, but I can't always say that was the same thing on the other side. Yeah. How he explains his past matters. Most adults come into relationships with some history. And if they don't have a history, then you got to ask, why is there no history? And having a past isn't the same as continuing the same pattern. The problem is you can't prove change just by listening to how well somebody tells a story. And he might be a storyteller. She might be a storyteller. And if they're a storyteller, then you'll be interested, trust me. You see, change when enough time has passed. Oh, sorry. You see change, when enough time has passed. And he makes different choices when the pressure, temptation, conflict, or opportunity comes back. If a man has a troubling past, right, he should be willing to explain what makes the present him different. How much time has passed? What practical work has he done to be different? That proves he's different. What boundaries has he established? What opportunities has he had to repeat the behavior? What did he do when those opportunities appeared? In other words, if he was abusive back in the day and you treated him nice and he's treating you nice, and meanwhile he knocked over the last two women that he was with, and I say knock over as in he hit them. Let's just say he was physically abusive. Let's just say, right? People do change, but many times they don't. But listen, hear me out anyway. But let's just say he hit his wife in their marriage and he divorced her or she divorced him, and then he hit his last girlfriend, and that was 5-10 years ago, right? The question is that I would ask and I would be concerned about is, okay, he says he's changed, he's shown you he's changed, he talked about it, and you're shocked, but now you're looking through your little history and saying, okay, well, he hasn't done any of these things to me. At the same time, you have to say, okay, what opportunity has he had between his abuse of his wife or his girlfriend and you? If he knocked over the last two women, but then he was in jail for 5 years, then he hasn't had much opportunity to change that behavior, has he? Now, he could have learned a plethora of things in jail, right? But he hasn't been on the outside, as well as the same guy might have knocked over his last two girlfriends, but then he's been in society. You can tell that he's an available bachelor. Everything else is on point, but he has kept himself from getting in a relationship until he was ready. You're still taking a chance 5 years later. But if you know that he's done the work, it still makes a little bit of difference, I would say. You don't want to be somebody's literal litmus test. Just saying. All right. So as I said, if a man has a troubling past, he should be willing to explain what makes the present different. How much time has passed? What practical work has he done? What boundaries has he established? What opportunities has he had to repeat the same bad behavior? What did he do when those opportunities appeared? Right. Did he hit the last chick again still? Right. He can't reasonably say, I behaved this way last month, but now I'm completely different, and expect that sentence to settle everything. Real change usually needs both time and opportunity to be tested. Suppose somebody has a history of abusive behavior, as I was saying. And I guess I kind of just veered off, but let me just get back to my my script here. 5 years without another incident matters, but you must ask whether he has faced comparable conflict, rejection, frustration, or intimate pressure during those 5 years. And he might not have in jail. Hope not. If he has, if he has lived without close relationships, the old pattern may simply not have met the conditions that the previous activated ones had, or the previous ones activated him or it, whatever the situation or issue was. Now, suppose he was unfaithful in marriage. The conditions in that relationship matter. Was there already betrayal? Was there rejection, addiction, hostility, abandonment, or unresolved pain? You have to ask those questions. A lot of people just take things at face value and just assume. Can't assume. You got to know those things. Was there already betrayal? Was there rejection, addiction, hostility, abandonment, or unresolved pain? Had he been asking for change? Was he willing to get help? What did each person do to try to repair it? The context helps you understand the pressure he was under and whether similar conditions might bring the same behavior back. But here's the line I wouldn't move. Context doesn't transfer responsibility. His former partner may have failed him. She may have been unfaithful, withheld affection, ignored legitimate needs, refused counseling, or broken promises. Those choices belong to her. His decision to cheat, retaliate, not wait, abuse, deceive, or leave without being honest belongs to him. A responsible explanation sounds like this. This was happening in my relationship. I became angry. I became lonely. I was resentful, and I made this choice. It was wrong. This is what I should have done, and this is what I'll do different now. An irresponsible explanation sounds like this. She made me do it. I had no choice. Sometimes one person really does carry more fault for the collapse of a relationship. People say it takes two to tango, but that doesn't mean every failure has to be divided 50-50. Even so, a credible man should be able to identify his part at least. He should be able to explain what he did. Sometimes you're outsmarted by a partner and he might be able to only explain the stuff that he did, and he won't even be able to, up till now or up till then, explain exactly what she did because he might still not know. Just saying. But at the same time, you can't just blame her for everything. What she did, what they tried together, why it failed, and what he couldn't see about himself at that time. Listen carefully to how he speaks about former partners. Yeah, get this. It's not only one way. Listen to this. If every ex is evil, and the word that women love, crazy, dishonest, controlling, and entirely responsible, he's giving you information. Also, if every ex is an angel and everything between them is still perfect, that is also information. You may reasonably wonder whether the emotional relationship ever ended or whether he could return when your relationship becomes difficult for him. His account should have some balance to it. That's the key. If he built a home with somebody, spent 15 years with her, or had several children with her, something held that relationship together for at least part of the time. He can't name one good quality, one good season, or one reason he stayed. Bitterness may have rewritten his memory, of course, or he may not be giving you the full account. If they have children, ask what their relationship has become now. Are their boundaries clear? Is the relationship severely strained? If so, why? Is it cooperative? If so, how did they reach that point without sliding back into emotional intimacy? The answer doesn't have to be perfect now, though, but it should make sense. Being the person he is and you knowing the person he is. If you want him to be honest, right, about something shameful, you also have to show that you can handle private information responsibly. You can't turn his disclosure into gossip, public leverage, or weapons in every future argument. You may still decide that his past disqualifies him from a relationship with you, and you're allowed to do that. But if you want the truth, you have to create as much room for it as you can, as much as your safety and judgment will reasonably allow. A lot of dishonesty comes out of fear. Remember that. Making somebody feel safe won't turn every dishonest person into an honest one, but if every confession leads to humiliation, people learn to hide things. What you're looking for is honesty with accountability. There can still be consequences for what he tells you. You just don't want to handle the truth in a way that makes honesty between the two of you absolutely impossible. Hold on a second, guys. All right, I had to make the WAV file bigger. Jeez, I didn't think it was going to take so long. We're almost there, but we're not quite there. Okay. Ambiguity and decisions aren't the same thing. I don't think you should let ambiguity settle into the relationship as if it's a normal stage that can go on forever. To me, ambiguity is already an answer. That's just me. Indecision is different from ambiguity. A man can honestly say, I think I want to move forward, but I need enough time and experience to work out whether we're a good match. That may come from wisdom. He might be tried, tested, and he's trying to be true. A painful history, concern about children, fear of repeating a mistake, or just desire to make a responsible decision, right? Healthy indecision still points somewhere. He's gathering information, asking questions, bringing you gradually into his life, making plans, becoming clearer, and closing alternatives. He hasn't made the final decision yet, but his behavior looks like somebody who honestly is trying to work it out, whether his relationship should become permanent. But please don't think just because he leaves a pair of pants and a toothbrush at your house that he's there for good. Some of those losers will come back for that and their bottle of wine. Okay. Sorry, guys. Ambiguity doesn't point anywhere. It keeps you available without giving you a meaningful place. He gets to test the merchandise, sample the product, and receive, sorry, the Tyrese joke, and receive companionship, affection, emotional support, sexual access, and maybe financial help while he keeps saying, let's just see where it goes. After a while, you have to ask, see where it goes? Anyhow, there should be logical forward motion during the first weeks. Honestly, the first month and the first 3 months. The exact speed will differ because people have different schedules, responsibilities, histories, opportunities. You can't expect the same thing from the guy who has no kids and the guy who has 3 kids, right? Obviously, that's just an example. And opportunities for conversation. Somebody deployed overseas can't date the same way as somebody who lives 10 minutes away from you. Somebody raising children, as I was saying, may need different pacing from somebody who lives alone. The pace can vary, right? But the direction shouldn't be a mystery. Over time, his words should become clearer. He should include you more. His time should become more intentional, and his plans should become more specific. You shouldn't always be present in his life, but never have a real place in it. Can't be just some chick who shows up at his soccer games, but not defined as his girl or his soon-to-be or anything else. Anyhow, you see, I look at relationships more like a marathon. You don't need somebody sprinting towards marriage before he knows your middle name. Moving too quickly can be a warning. Just because the sex was good doesn't mean that he should be running toward the aisle. Just mean you may have too many partners. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay. Moving too quickly can be a warning. He may be in love with you, or is he in love with an idea? Is he desperate to fill a vacancy, or moving so fast that you don't have the time to evaluate him? But you don't want him dragging his feet while accepting every offer you offer either. He may be walking, jogging, or even crawling because he has legitimate reason to be careful. As I said, maybe he has kids. But the point is, as long as there is movement that both of you find acceptable, slow doesn't automatically mean he isn't serious. And if the pace is too slow for what you need, you don't have to stay just because what he says is reasonable or it makes sense. That clock might be ticking. Anyhow, conversation is the agent of movement. Listen to that. If the movement stops, right, usually somebody has gotten comfortable. Just think of the word movement. All right. He may be getting enough of what he wants without having to make another decision. That's when you need a clear conversation, because the conversation should get the relationship moving again. Tell him what you're seeing and what you need. Ask whether his intentions have changed. Ask what the next reasonable step is. Don't give him a speech designed to hypnotize him into choosing you. Don't start auditioning harder, and don't offer more because you're hoping more access will somehow create more commitment. It doesn't. If the conversation produces clarity and renewed action, watch whether the action lasts. Yeah. If it produces another explanation without movement, well, I think you received more information. If the conversation changes nothing, leaving may become the only movement available to you. But leaving can't be a trick. People know that trick. Don't pack imaginary bags because you want him to choose you down the don't pack the bag, because you want him to chase you down the hallway on your way to the elevator, right? Don't say, if I don't receive an answer in 3 days, I'm finished. And then the 4th day, 5th day, 15th day, and you've never changed anything and you're still there. You have to mean what you say. An unforced boundary teaches a person, unforced boundary teaches a person that you just say things. It's the same mistake people make with children. When they announce a consequence, they have no intention of actually applying. Eventually, the other person learns that you're just making noise. If he only moves when you genuinely begin leaving, you can decide whether to pause and see what he does. Sometimes people need a meaningful consequence, a little kick in the booty, to understand that you mean business. They need to understand what they're about to lose. They're about to lose at the same time. But a promise made in an emergency isn't the same as a changed intention. Hear this out. People tend to fall back into their patterns. So give the changes enough time to become a new pattern. If he's still moving when the immediate fear is past, does he take the next step without another threat? Maybe he just started taking the garbage out every week, but he hasn't put the cap on the toothpaste. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's more serious than that, but you got what I mean. Is the effort mutual now? Are you still pushing him up the hill? You can give somebody a little push. You just don't want to be supplying all of his motivation, all of his movement. Most of the desire to move forward should already be in him for you. Beware of false proof. There are several things women can read as commitment that may prove very little when they are standing by themselves. Money is one of them. You're like, huh? Yeah, money can be one of them. Listen, a wealthy man can spend $300 with less sacrifice than another man who spends 70. The size of the bill doesn't tell you the size of his intention. I mean, one guy could buy you a Birkin, the other person can buy you a Gucci, another person can only buy you a Michael Kors. Right. Another guy can maybe only buy you a Nike bag. Right. A wealthy man, as I said, can spend $300 like nothing, and the next man who spends 70 is serious. The size of the bill doesn't tell you the size of his intentions. You have to look at what it costs him to compared to what he has. How it fits with the rest of his behavior. And whether he's generally responsible with his money or just knows how to put on a show. Time is another one. I don't know why it's like my throat has something of sounding weird. Maybe I got to come down with a cold. I don't know. Anyhow, a man may spend every day with you because he's devoted. That's amazing, right? Or he may spend every day with you because he's unemployed, isolated, bored, or has nowhere else to be. Time matters, but you have to put that time beside his effort, his purpose, responsibility, and forward movement. Social proof can also mislead. A man may introduce you to friends who will agree with anything he says and cover anything he does. Look at the quality of the people around him. Can they disagree with him to his face? Don't say that you called his friend and the friend said such and such, but the friend wouldn't say such and such right in front of him. Does he treat them well? And also, that friend may do those things because the friend's trying to be in competition with him. So you gotta balance all that out. It's not as easy as people think. Do they appear to respect him without being controlled by him? If the only person you ever see him challenge is you, while everybody else behaves like a yes man or yes woman, pay attention. Words about the future may be the easiest false proof of all. A man can describe the color of your future home, name imaginary children, talk about traveling the world, and tell you he wants to grow old with you like Adam Sandler, without taking a practical step. It's only planning when that future starts changing what he does in the present. He doesn't need to paint his spare bedroom green and buy a crib while you're still deciding whether to become a couple. But if children, travel, marriage, or a shared home are genuine goals, there should eventually be proportionate action. That's what I was saying about, you may have a guy and you're talking to him on the phone or texting him and he's like, oh yeah, I was outside planting a garden, and he hadn't had a garden since he's been in that house, or he's buying stuff for a garden so that because you talked about loving gardens, and he purchased some new garden stuff and some gloves and some shovels and seeds and plants and stuff. Maybe he's planning to have you over to help him plant a garden. If he's getting rid of his old couch because it's filthy, and you know what I mean, or he's getting rid of an old bed because you both know that he wasn't on that bed alone. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's various things, little things and regular things that he'll probably be doing. If you said that he's too fat, he's too heavy, you probably notice he's going to get a gym membership, or he's going to start walking, or he's going to start riding a bike or something. You know what I mean? There's little things that show you, especially when they're new things that are positive. New positive changes in a new relationship let you know that somebody is serious about you, most likely, or at least he's positive about change, right? Maybe he can't save $3,000 a month, but can he save 70? Can he reduce irresponsible spending? Can he learn about budgeting? Can the two of you create a plan together? If he doesn't know how to take the next step, is he willing to learn? If you know, is he willing to let you show him? If neither of you know, are you willing to educate yourselves together? The step doesn't have to be enormous. It just has to be real. All right, now we're going to get to the meat and the nitty gritty. No, I'm just joking. Sex can create the illusion of progress. Okay, hang on a second. Man, usually I cut when I do this, guys, but I'm just making the file bigger and longer on this thing. I use Adobe Audition, and I have file lengths, and I have certain things that are set. And what it does is, right now I had it set. First of all, I only had it set at 40 minutes. And I'm not sure how long we're going. And I'm just trying to make sure everything is cool. Okay, I'm gonna move this afterwards, I guess. Okay. Man, that's horrible. And like my grade 12 teacher told me, she said, Michael, you are an imperfect perfectionist. And it's probably one of the most decidingly frustrating things about myself, for myself, if that makes any sense. I'm the kind of guy who will be doing some art or something, or cutting something, and I'll say, oh, there's still too much room. I still haven't cut it perfectly. And then I'll get so close to perfection, the average person will probably say it's perfect. And then I'll cut it one more time and then cut too much off and ruin everything. That's just me. Anyways, all right, here we go. Sex can create the illusion of progress. I really appreciate you sticking with me, guys. It's not as easy. I know I'm long-winded, but I'm trying to be thorough. And that's one thing with me. I really try to be thorough. Okay. Sex can make all of this harder to judge because the physical part of the relationship may be moving quickly while everything else stays exactly where it is or where it was. From a Christian understanding, sex belongs within marriage. I know most people aren't living by that standard, but there's still wisdom underneath the boundary. Sex can create attachment, expectations, vulnerability, routine, and a sense of union before two people have even decided what that union is. If a man is willing to choose you without sexual access, especially when he's sexually experienced, you might think, oh yeah, listen to this, and knows what he's waiting for, that can be meaningful. But He's accepting some uncertainty about sexual compatibility because he believes you and the possible future are worth taking seriously. But even his willingness to wait isn't proof by itself. That's right. He might play the long game and it still might not be proof. You might be saying, well, if a guy's going to wait, then obviously that's proof. Listen to this. A man can play the waiting game because he doesn't have many alternatives. Oh, he can wait also because scarcity increases desire. He can turn sex into a challenge, build it up in his imagination, pursue it for months, finally get it, and then disappear because the fantasy has been satisfied or the reality didn't match what he imagined. Yeah. That's why you still have to you have to place his sexual restraint beside the other evidence. Is he learning who you are, building trust, moving towards exclusivity, and integrating you into his life? Are the conversations becoming deeper and clearer? Is he planning a future, or is he just enduring the delay until he gets access? If sex happens before his intentions are clear, you can't take it back, but you don't have to continue either. Pause and ask the question. Find out where the relationship is going before physical intimacy becomes the only part that is moving forward constantly and being added to the repertoire. Yeah. Don't let your body become a convenience store he visits whenever he wants something quickly. Easy access can feel significant because the experience is intense, but intensity isn't commitment, and repeated access doesn't mean he's actually, in reality, gonna choose you. Many men with that okay. Many men take a woman's sexual history seriously. Seriously. Whether modern culture likes it or not, a man may accept sexual access from someone he wouldn't choose as a long-term partner. That may sound unfair, and maybe it is, especially when he has an extensive history of his own. And women are entitled to question that double standard. But pretending the preference doesn't exist will not protect you. And the reason sexual intimacy carries so much weight is that it is one of the main things that separate romantic relationship with a woman from the companionship a man can get from another man, friends, relatives, or other people in his life. Just being real. Personality, warmth, conversation, and friendship matter. Of course they do. But sexual intimacy is still a major part of why many men pursue a relationship with women in the first place. So you shouldn't treat it as though it means nothing and then be surprised when somebody else treats it as though it means nothing too. You also need to be honest about what sex may do to your own judgment. Some men may move from one sexual partner to another with less emotional disruption than women they're dating. Although people are different, repeated intimacy can strengthen your attachment and make it harder to leave even after his behavior gets worse. So don't use sex to purchase clarity, and don't offer more physical access because you're receiving less emotional certainty. Define as much as you reasonably can before you become deeply attached to something that hasn't been properly named. And if both of you are waiting until marriage, talk about sex anyway. Waiting doesn't remove the need to discuss expectations, values, affection, healthy boundaries, openness, and whether you're both willing to learn together. Once you cross that threshold of marriage, the two of you still have to participate this in that relationship. Waiting shouldn't become an excuse to avoid every conversation about sexual relationships because it's going to eventually exist. That's why. You don't have to get crass, but it should still be a topic. All right. Don't offer more while receiving less. You hear me? Listen, sometimes a woman helps the ambiguity continue because she stays completely open to a man who's only selectively available to her. You can give too much too early, too often, and too freely before a proper decision has been made. You can open your body, your home, your family, your finances, your emotion, your schedule, and your future to somebody who's opened almost nothing comparable to you. You may tell yourself, you're just being patient or understanding. But if you're always offering more while receiving less, the arrangement is working for him and working against you. There is no non-movement movement. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards in somebody's eyes. That doesn't mean every standard you begin with is wise. Some standards may need adjustment. If you insist that a man must earn $150,000 while you're working at Walmart for $15 or whatever the minimum wage is, you might have to adjust it, right? No, yes, no. Lowering his status. And listen, most guys don't care. I know that it's been this thing where people talk about it all the time, but most guys don't care. If they find a woman that they love and they want to be with, they don't care if she works next and makes next to nothing, or whether she's a master of the universe and thinking of becoming president of the country. Honestly. Now, obviously, those are two huge extremes, but the point is that at the end of the day, that's not what he's looking for a win for. One thing he expecting is that if you two together have a combined salary of such and such, he doesn't want you to overshoot it so that you guys are trying to figure out how to live every month. He'd rather you come down lower so you can afford more of those things that probably you want to do more often. So he doesn't have to figure it out all the time. Lowering a status requirement isn't the same as lowering a character judgment or requirement. You can become more realistic about income, height, housing, education, style, or social position without becoming careless about fidelity, honesty, respect, effort, and direction. Lowering your standards shouldn't mean giving more access in exchange for less commitment. You also have to judge yourself honestly. A lot of male attention doesn't automatically prove extraordinary value. It doesn't. The attention may come from beauty, personality, intelligence, you know how to move, warmth, clothing that you wear, sexual availability, visibility. If you're seen around more guys are going to approach you, right? Or simply your willingness to entertain it. Some women never look you in your eye. Guys will see and guys will talk and say, wow, this, that, and the other. But there's some girls will not look a man in the eye who is not her man. It's just reality. Unless they work together and they have no choice. And when they're not working together, you see them in the hallway or in the office elevator and they got nothing for you, man. Know what you bring to a relationship without inflating yourself, without devaluing yourself. Don't convince yourself that you're special, that a serial dater abandonment, sorry, don't convince yourself that you're so special that a serial dater abandoned every old pattern the moment you saw him or the moment he saw you. Your beauty, education, chemistry, or the fact that the other men want you doesn't erase his history and why he's single, what his pattern has been, and what has changed. Then give his present behavior enough time to answer. The direct answer, check it out. So, does he actually want a relationship with you, or is he just keeping things casual? Don't answer the question using one expensive dinner, one emotional night, one promise, one introduction, one encounter, one weekend, one phone call, one period of patience, or one moment when he panicked because you were leaving. Put the evidence together. Are his words and actions congruent? Is he honest about what he wants? Is he closing romantic alternatives? Is his availability reasonable and increasingly dependable? Is unnecessary secrecy decreasing? Is he letting you see the life he actually lives? Is he making room for you in more than one concrete way? Just because he bought a 4-seater doesn't mean he wants a family with 3 kids, or a wife with 3 kids, and he went away from a 2-seater. Can he discuss his past without accountability? With accountability, Can he discuss his past without accountability? I'm like tongue-tied. I really appreciate you hanging out and sticking with me, guys. Sometimes this happens with me. Can he describe former partners without turning every one of them into a monster or an angel? Does he accept the standards he asks you to meet? Does he respond to concerns with clarity rather than punishment? Are future promises producing present steps? Is the relationship moving? If the answer across those areas is consistently yes, then you have a reasonable basis for believing he's seriously considering a relationship with you, Susie. If the evidence is mixed, keep talking and keep watching. Honest indecision may need time, but it should still give you some direction. If he's receiving the benefits of a relationship while refusing to name it, define it, protect it, bring it into his life, or move it forward, stop asking whether the ambiguity contains some hidden promise. Because the ambiguity is the answer. You don't have to force him to choose you. You shouldn't have to force him to choose you. Matter of fact, don't force him to choose you. You'll only regret it later. You don't need to perform harder, give more, become more sexually available, spend more money, lower every boundary, or convince him that you are worthy. You have to decide whether the relationship he's actually offering is one you are willing to actually live in. Don't think it's going to get better. It generally gets worse before it does. And that worse can be really bad. Have the conversations and see whether it leads to clearer behavior and real progress. If it doesn't, if it doesn't, you may need to be the person who moves out of the relationship. Mean what you say, follow through on your boundaries, and keep watching the pattern. Because when a man genuinely wants to build a relationship with you, you may not know every detail of the future, but you shouldn't have to spend the entire present wondering whether there's a future at all. All right, guys, this episode has been long enough, so I'm going to mosey on out of here. Take care of yourself and each other. For those of you who are listening to this with a spouse or with an intended spouse, and be real. And if you need to listen to it again, nobody's stopping you. Take care until next time. I am MCM, and I am out of here. Peace out.
This is You're Probably Right. Entertainment first, everything else is just bonus. Opinions, all ours, sometimes backed by research, but never the final word. There are always exceptions, so take it with a grain of salt and a slight dusting of chili powder.